A lot of you out there have probably already heard the news, but Nvidia recently announced the GeForce RTX 5060 and RTX 5060 Ti. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Asus Prime GeForce RTX 5060 Ti overclock. And with the Ti variants, these do come with 16 gigabytes of GDDR7. And to tell you the truth, ever since Nvidia launched the 5090, 5080, 5070, I've been really excited about the lower end variants like the 5060 and 5060 Ti, mainly due to the lower price point. And over on Nvidia's website, they're saying that the RTX 5060 family is going to start at $299. Now, what this means is that the 5060 with 8 gigs of VRAM could start at $299. But when we're talking about the 5060 Ti variants, which by the way, there'll be two, one with 8 gigs of VRAM, the other with 16. 8 gigs is going to start at $379, 16 at $429. Now, of course, with all of the crazy GPU pricing going on, getting one of these at $379 to $429 is going to be a bit hard to do. But either way, I still wanted to take a look at this because in the future, prices will come down on these cards. Now again, we're taking a look at the Asus Prime Overclock RTX 5060 Ti with 16 gigs of VRAM. And two of my go-to cards for the last few years have been the RTX 4060 Ti or even the 4060, and of course, the RTX 3060 Ti. So I really wanted to see if it would be worth upgrading at least from the 3060 Ti up to the 5060 Ti. When it comes to the Asus Prime Overclock Edition that we have here, you can see we've got a triple fan design. It's using dual ball bearings and their new Axial Tech fans. This is also a dual BIOS card, and around back we've got our switch, so performance mode or quiet mode. In quiet mode, this is going to be close to 16% quieter, but in performance mode at the stock TGP, which is around 180 watts, this will be 13% cooler, so it's just really going to quiet those fans down for us. It also has the vented backplate like we've seen in some of their other newer Prime cards. And even though we're rocking the TI version of this card, it only requires one 8-pin PCIe connector, which is something I love to see. When it comes to the specs of the new RTX 5060 Ti, we've got 4,608 CUDA cores. This has 16 gigs of GDDR7 running at a 128-bit bus, PCIe 5.0 interface, a boost clock of 2,617 MHz, and in overclock mode, it'll do up to 2,647. But keep in mind, I mean, these are basically suggestions. If it's cool and it's getting enough power, there's a chance you could boost up higher than this. They recommend at least a 550 watt power supply, which doesn't sound too bad for what we have here. And if you want to use AI applications to cheat on your homework that can actually utilize the GPU, this offers up to 758 TOPS of AI performance. I've got a lot of testing that I need to get to, but I wanted to give you a quick rundown on the test rig we're using. What we've got here is an Intel Core i7-14700K 360mm AIO, 32 gigs of DDR5 running at 7,000 megahertz. And if you're interested in any of these parts, I will leave links to everything I'm using in the description below. First things first, wanted to check out the total TGP of the RTX 5060 Ti, and yeah, we're right there at 180 watts. That's what's stated, but if you wanted to add a little more to it, it'll boost up a bit higher by just upping that power limit by 10%. Really easy to do. You could use GPU Tweak 3, or you could even use Afterburner. Now we're drawing closer to 200 watts with this card, and with it set up like this, it will allow it to boost a bit higher in games, but keep in mind we're going to be running it at the stock power limit of 180 watts for all of the testing. Now I want to move over to some benchmarks, and the first one we have here is Geekbench 6, testing out the OpenCL performance of the RTX 5060 Ti. We got a total score here of 140,461. And if you take a look down below, we also tested out the RTX 3060 Ti and the 4060 Ti 16 gig. And of course, like we suspected, we are getting better OpenCL performance here, but it's only a little over 8% better than the 4060 Ti and 25% better than the 3060 Ti. Next, checking out some Blender performance using the Blender benchmark. On the RTX 5060 Ti, we got a total score of 4,295. 4060 Ti right there at 3,787, 3060 Ti 2,726. So it looks like that 5060 Ti isn't coming too far ahead of the 4060 with Blender, about 13% better. 3D Mark Steel Nomad got a total score of 3,565 with the 5060 Ti. And to give you an idea, the RTX 3060 Ti in the same system got a total score of 2,597. The RTX 4060 Ti 16GB, 2,989. And finally, Time Spy. Give you a look at the total score of this system, then we'll just move to the graphics score, 16,552. But we really want to take a look at the graphics score, and that's 15,829. To tell you the truth, I was pretty surprised that that graphics score was so high when you compare them to the RTX 3060 Ti and the 4060 Ti 16 gig. So at least with this synthetic benchmark Time Spy, we're seeing a nice jump over that 4060 Ti with the 5060 Ti. But now I want to get into some real world gaming because in my opinion, that's what this thing's about. And the first one we have here is Cyberpunk 2077 1440p Ultra with no DLSS. We're not using ray tracing. I wanted to see what this would do at a native 1440 Ultra settings. Just to give you an idea here, 1440, and it says custom because we do need to turn off FSR, automatically gets enabled. So we're at Ultra 1440, no resolution scale, no frame generation. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed by the performance. I mean, especially in this market square, every time I go over here with any card not using scaling, it really kind of falls on its face. I mean, obviously higher end cards will be able to power through this, but seeing that this 5060 Ti can give us an average of 82 FPS with this at Ultra, no resolution scale is pretty awesome. But of course, we've got an RTX card. We need to check out a little bit of ray tracing here. And this first test is going to be a bit extreme. I'm 100% positive this is going to fall on its face because we're not going to be using any frame generation. And with Nvidia's new 5000 series GPUs, we do have DLSS multi-frame generation, but I'm going to leave it off. And basically, we're just going to go to ray tracing overdrive. DLSS 4 set to auto, so it's going to do its thing. It's probably going to take it down to performance mode, but I want to see how this acts without any frame generation. And with multi-frame gen on, set at X4, I'm sure we can get a pretty decent frame rate out of it. But without it, it's definitely not looking great. And, you know, I don't blame the card. This is really hard on any GPU out there. Even the 5090 with ray tracing overdrive enabled does kind of fall on its face if we're not using frame gen. And right now, on the RTX 5060 Ti, 1440p, DLSS 4 set to auto, ray tracing overdrive, we're getting an average of around 35 FPS. But we can get a lot more out of this by enabling that DLSS frame generation. So here it is at 1440, ray tracing overdrive, frame gen X4, over 100 FPS on average. But it's definitely not perfect like this. I am noticing some trails, especially when things are flying through the air. So I'd say if you wanted to use ray tracing overdrive on the RTX 5060 Ti, I would probably set it to X3 frame gen. That way, there's not as many fake frames that we have to deal with. Next on the list, my favorite arcade racer, Forza Horizon 5. You knew it was coming. 1440p Extreme Plus with no DLSS. And when I say Extreme Plus, I mean you can go to extreme settings on this, but then going down the list, there's still more options that we can enable. This is maxed out here at 1440, and we're getting an average of 143 FPS. I also wanted to test out Spider-Man 2, but you know, if you play this game and you've got the recent updates from the developers, this is not running great at all on basically anything that I've tested. I would even come out and say that it's performing worse than it did day one at launch, and there were a lot of bugs over there. Right now, we're at 1440p, very high, DLSS set to quality, and I will come back to this game in a couple weeks. I know the developers can fix whatever's going on. I've got a feeling we can see around the same kind of frame rate that we've got going here, native 1440p. Next one we have is Monster Hunter Wilds 1440p, ultra preset, no frame generation. Seeing averages in the mid 50s with it, and I kind of suspected this would be the case. This is another one of those games that just needs a little bit of fixing here and there, but as soon as we enable frame generation, it takes us from the mid 40s up to the mid 80s. So it really helps out here, but it would be nice to be able to play this natively at 1440 or even with a little bit of DLSS. I believe that Ultra preset does take DLSS to quality. And of course, if we disabled that with frame gen, we could still get over 60 with it. But the way this game runs on every system I've tested, we probably need a little bit. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered actually performed better than I thought it would. We're at 1440p, very high with no DLSS, getting an average of around 74 FPS. Marvel Rivals, Ultra Settings, 1440p, no DLSS. Was really hoping we could get a lot more out of this. Now taking it down to 1080, we can do over 120, or enabling a little bit of DLSS. This game does have frame gen, but you know, in a multiplayer game like this, I personally wouldn't want to use frame gen, even though we could use Nvidia's reflex technology, which would help out with any kind of latency. Either way, I wanted to keep it native, and it's not doing too bad. The last game I wanted to show off was God of War Ragnarok. We're at 1440p, ultra settings, no DLSS. Looking awesome here. I mean, we're seeing an average of around 82 FPS in battle, and it will jump up when there's not a lot of characters on screen. It goes to the mid 90s there. Last thing here, I've got 4 games that I tested on the 3060 Ti, the 4060 Ti, and of course the RTX 5060 Ti. Going into this, I wanted to see if it would be worth upgrading from the 4060 Ti, and to tell you the truth, I don't think it would be. I personally have a 4060 Ti in my main PC. That's the one that I've been using for the past, I think, 2 years now. But checking out Starfield 1440p Ultra, our average FPS on the 3060 Ti, 32 FPS, 4060 Ti, 48, and the 5060, 56 FPS. When it comes to a game like Stalker 2, 1440p Ultra, our average FPS on that 3060 Ti was 31 FPS, 39 on the 4060, and 50 on the 5060. This definitely looks like one of the highest jumps that I've seen so far. Hogwarts Legacy 1440 Ultra, 51 on the 3060 Ti, 66 on the 4060 Ti, and 74 on the 5060 Ti. And finally, Fortnite 1440p Epic, 86 on the 3060, 4060 Ti comes in at 92, and the 5060 Ti at 109. There's no doubt that a 16 gig version of the 5060 Ti will perform better down the road when it comes to games at higher resolutions that require more VRAM. A lot of the newer AAA games hitting the market do require more VRAM, but I'll tell you, I mean, if you've already got an RTX 4060 Ti with 16 gigs of VRAM, I would stick with what you got. Basically, what I've seen in my test when I'm comparing that RTX 4060 Ti with 16 gigs of VRAM to the RTX 5060 Ti with 16 gigs, is anywhere from a 13 to a 28% increase in performance going up to that 5060 Ti. And with this, I'm talking about native resolution performance with no frame generation. If you were to enable multi-frame gen, you could get 100% better performance than the RTX 4060 Ti. But I'm talking about real frame rate performance increase. And yeah, this is not a super generational jump, but I'll tell you, if you've got an RTX 3060 Ti and you've been looking to upgrade, this might be a good choice because we're seeing anywhere from a 21% to a 75% increase in FPS performance. And again, at native resolutions, no frame generation. So again, it's not a generational jump over the 4060 Ti. I mean, basically what we've got here is something in between the 4070 and the 4070 Ti Super. So in the end, it's always up to you if you're going to upgrade or not. And Nvidia did state that the MSRP on the RTX 5060 Ti with 16 gigs is $429. Not sure if we're going to see that really hit the market or not, just like all of the other cards out there. But if you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave links in the description. And if there's anything else you want to see running on the RTX 5060 Ti, just let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.